Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Hey friends, I am Neethi the pharmacist, here with my co-hosts Janae Williams and Valerie Cruz, and we are on full. Welcome to Our View.
Hi, everyone.
Hey everybody.
Hey friends.
Hello.
Today we have with us Tony Bevilacqua, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. After leading a younger life of reckless abandon with zero concern for his most valuable asset, his health, his body eventually broke down, got sick, and almost completely failed. In a way, he truly believes it may have been one of the best things that could have happened to him. Without the wake-up call of sickness, he may have had a chance to create such an incredible life. He may have never had that chance. A life full of health, love, and limitless potential. His in-the-trenches experiences have allowed him a unique opportunity to help others change their own lives. As a professional coach, he's worked with hundreds of wonderful people, guiding them through their own health and fitness journeys, from elite athletes to the most chronically ill. He's found that when a foundation of health becomes priority, the sick get well and the elite get better. He has a health prescription. Think about this. The acronym let me get it right, EMRSP. And what that stands for: eat quality food, move your body, rest when tired, socialize often, and pursue things that make you happy. EMRSP.
Bringing the joy. Tony Bevilacqua is always bringing the joy. Always bringing the joy. And, you know, for those of you who have been following my podcast, the first season, he's episode 18, if you guys want to go back and listen to that conversation that we had. And welcome back, Tony.
Well, thank you very much. This is a great experience. I'm glad you had me back.
Well, we love Tony, and Tony, you and I wanted to continue a conversation this time about children's fitness, because a lot of people are, there's not a lot of people talking about that. And I think it's interesting that when you're looking at the health and fitness industry, they're only ever focusing on adults, it seems like.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a missing piece to that kids' fitness end, without question. And I see it. I see some of that fitness is kind of wrapped up for kids. It's wrapped up in more like sports specific type stuff. So, you know, if you have like a football player, they may go to like a specialty football camp. So they're doing some things there, but it's still just primarily focused on just whatever sport it is that they're in. But, you know, one of the things that I do is I'm looking at creating and developing a much more broad base of strength conditioning, a broad base of fitness that will carry over into anything these kids want to do. So, you know, maybe when they're 10 years old, they want to be a football player, but as they get a little bit older, what if they want to switch sports? If all they've been doing is playing football, they're going to struggle with the other things that they start to tap into. So again, our focus is like that broad base of physical competency, if you will, that will go broad base and allow kids to do anything that they want in their lives, whether it's sport or just regular life. So that's where I'm coming with the whole thing.
I love that. I love to listen to you and hear about your story, really. That's my piece in this picture here. When you said in your bio that, you know, your passion came from your sickness, can you give us a little bit about that background, about how you said your life led to this passion?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I sort of had a passion for it. It all started in college. Like I was an athlete in high school and an athlete in college, and I had this thing for human movement. So I just really appreciated what that was, and we can get into biomechanics and physiology. It really intrigued me. So I started down that path, but then I also got into a world of of when I was in college, it was how much beer could you drink? You know, how much bad food could you possibly consume? You know, and I went into some pretty bad places there. Never really lost that passion, but I just wasn't taking care of myself. And I think that led to some problems I had later on in my life. And later on in my life, I'm talking like my late 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 20, it was 28 or 29. It was like right at that transition somewhere. And spent about 3 years kind of going through that whole thing. And in that,
Which is quite early, Tony.
so
very
early.
I mean, you're saying later in
Rocked.
life, but the truth is it's happening earlier, and we're watching it happen earlier and earlier. And now, of course, you know, childhood cancer has almost socially become like normalized.
It's really sad, isn't it? My
It's
goodness.
it's horrible. I mean, like I remember when I was growing up, then if you know, like let's say that we were invited to your place for dinner tonight or something, and I said to you, oh, you know, I'm going to stop by CVS on our way. Do you guys need us to pick anything up on the way? You would be like shocked. What? Why are you going to the pharmacy? Because at that time, the pharmacy, first of all, was only down by the hospital. There wasn't like a pharmacy on every block or every corner or something.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if someone said they had to go to the pharmacy, first of all, nobody would ever think that you would go there for anything besides drugs. Like you would never go to the pharmacy
For potato chips.
right, or whatever. You know,
Toilet
and-
paper.
Right.
I mean, nowadays in food deserts, people are unfortunately shopping for their food there,
Yeah.
which I call poison, which isn't food at all. It doesn't identify as anything that our body would have know or you know or recognize on a cellular level, which we are talking about every episode.
Mhm.
So, I think that's you know that's very young. You're
It is.
so fortunate.
And it's amazing to me that you went through that so young, and now you have a passion of getting fitness to children, which I
Yeah.
think is a key point. So not only do
Mhm.
kids need to eat quality food in your acronym, which I
Yeah,
love,
yeah.
they also need to move.
Yeah.
And I find it, I have a 14-year-old, and mine isn't an athlete. And I was listening to you and you're talking because I can't get her to move because she's not an athlete. A lot of kids who aren't going to be in the football, basketball arenas, you know, she has other talents, they're just not sports.
Yeah.
So
And
how
schools
do
are
I
not-
get her to
Their
move?
school isn't pushing it anymore. That's the problem, I think, too.
Yes.
Is that in school, it's not a priority to move. And it's like when we were growing up, I mean, I actually took the kids back home. When I went to visit my mom one time, then we went from my old house that I grew up in. Like I showed them where I grew up, where some of our friends lived. And I was surprised to find that I used to go to my friend's house who was 7 miles away
Right.
on my bike.
Yeah.
And I had no idea it was 7 miles until I drove it as an adult and I took the kids there and I was like, oh my gosh, like and then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? We would go back and forth to each other's house more than once in a day. So we were driving, I mean, we rode our bikes 28 miles
Yeah.
minimally
Right.
in a
Yeah.
day. And now if you told your kids to drive their bike a mile, they would freak out. Like, oh my gosh, am I in a contest? Like, what's going on? You know, and like for us, so when we say that we were moving, it wasn't like a block. It wasn't like around the block.
Right.
Yeah.
It was miles
Miles.
and miles, and we thought nothing about it. And then we would,
It's uphill both ways
Yeah,
and
in the snow.
yeah. And I mean, when I actually saw it on my odometer, I was kind of like, really? I had to do
Yeah.
it a couple times. I was like, oh my gosh.
But
Like-
everybody was doing it, so you weren't
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah.
People, we just walked. I used
Yeah.
to.
Right.
My school was a long, long way away. Sometimes I would miss the bus on purpose, and I would just jog home. And when I drive to that high school, I'm like, how the heck did I get home? I don't even know.
And we did it in the wind and in the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like so
Nobody was-
crazy. And nobody
yeah.
thought anything
Nobody thought
about
anything
it
of it.
ever. And like, I mean, not only would I ride the 7 miles there, we would ride around the neighborhood or whatever we were going to do, play at her house for a little while, and then she'd come over, and then we play in my neighborhood for a little while. And playing in each other's house meant the neighborhood. It wasn't like you were actually ever inside the house. You know, you were like outside.
If you were in
And-
the house, you were punished.
Yeah,
You
you were
didn't want to be in the
You
house.
were
You wanted to
right.
go outside.
And people would stand outside your door going, hello,
Yeah.
and be throwing things
Yeah,
in the rod. You know, can you come outside and be
Like,
begging,
yes.
Mr. Mr. So-and-so, will you please let Tony come out and play? I mean, you know,
Yeah.
like, I mean, that was what
we
used to
wanted. We
happen.
were attracted to the sun. We were attracted to our friends that were outside,
The
not
ground,
inside, not video
dirt.
games. Even when the video games came, like
Yeah.
Atari and all of those. I mean, this
We
is
would
way
take a
back in the
break.
day. We would
We would
be
take a
like,
break to get cool off inside. Like, we'd be like, okay, let's go play a
It's
Pac-Man real quick.
temporary.
Go inside, play a little bit. Okay, you guys drink some water. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Then we would go back outside. But it was never like, oh, let's just stay here for the rest of the
Yeah,
day.
that's
So
that was
I want to
boring.
know from an expert, how do you structure your program with the kids
Yeah.
to a child like mine who isn't an athlete?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that you're right. I mean, that is one of the hardest things to do is to try to get your kids to move. And I have a 9-year-old, so I have the same kind of struggle where you don't want to be that that overbearing parent that's like, come on, I'm forcing you to go to the gym. You don't want to be that because it just puts a negative, sort of mindset in their brain right away about movement.
Right.
But I think one of the things that we try to do for every kid is we try to make it, first of all, fun. It's got to be something that's fun and enjoyable, and we like to structure things in a way that we can measure progress. So every day that they're coming in, we're going to measure something. It could be something very random, like how many burpees can you do in a minute? It could be something just very, very simple, and then we may test that again.
Competitive.
Yeah, a little bit of competitiveness. We're always testing things, and we try to, like I said, we're always trying to keep it game based. We're trying to make it fun, especially for the younger kids, and they'll stay sort of in that, we'll call it kind of developmental sort of area for as long as they want. And then if they'd like to, they can shift out of that, because there's a certain group of kids that are eventually going to want to move into something a little bit more,
Elite.
let's say, competitive. Let's say they want to just dig more into it. They want to, they start to get an appreciation for gymnastics or for weightlifting or, whatever that might be. So then we can take them in that direction. So really it's just a start with just a fun kind of play-based system.
So I'm sorry. So how do you do a 14-year-old? Let's say they're already stuck in their ways, if you will,
Right.
teenage strong.
Yeah.
How do you get a 14-year-old doing it?
Everybody is different. I mean, it's the first thing is to meet that person, because again, everyone is different. You have to understand personalities too. So when you meet a kid, where are they kind of coming from? What are they? Is it just that they're a little intimidated walking into the gym? Is it that they just legitimately don't want to be there? Are their parents forcing them to come in?
Right.
So you have to just kind of get a feel for where that's at, and then you can start to make some recommendations based on that. And a lot of times it's just as, when I first meet a kid, a teenager, they're always coming in with their parents, of course, because their parents want to talk to me and see the gym and kind of see what we're all about. And then I always invite the kid to come back and try a visit, so come in and visit with me, spend some time with me or one of the coaches, right? And we'll go through some different things. And I find that it's completely different. Their demeanor, their attitude, when mom or dad is not there,
Yes.
it's completely different. And you'll find like most kids are generally motivated if you can speak to them in the right way, if you
Well,
can
you're
kind of
like
get to
Coach Tony. It's different,
Right.
like,
them. Yeah,
like
yeah.
Coach
Gotta have
Bevilacqua,
the
or
coach.
I don't know, what are they calling Coach B? I don't really know. But
Coaching characteristics. Important.
when you're working with a coach versus, mom, it's obviously
Yeah.
completely different. And I think that the atmosphere at the box that you have is very friendly, open, receptive, and I think it's fun. I mean, I don't know who wouldn't be having fun.
It's one of the things that I love more than anything is when we have because a lot of times we'll have like a kids class running, and then we'll also have like adult class going. So there'll be, a bunch of adults doing their thing, and I'll have some kids doing their thing. And like if a kid walks over and like high fives an adult, like that's awesome, right? I mean, like they're connected, they're communicating. There's, that age barrier kind of goes down a little bit, and it's like we're kind of all in this together. It's just a really unique, kind of neat atmosphere, and it goes both ways. A lot of times you'll have the adults come over by the kids and be like, "That was amazing. That was what you just did there was great." So that community is what you want to really kind of work towards. If you can have that, it's magic. It's just pure magic.
And how do you incorporate your acronym?
How do I incorporate my acronym? It's hard. And again, I think a lot of this stuff, we when we meet with somebody originally, we want to let them know that we're more than just a fitness center, because usually people walk in and they see weights and they see other things, and they think that that's all we really do. And it's, so right away when I meet with someone, we do a consultation, is we say, look, it's more than just fitness. I want to know, how are you sleeping at night? I want to know, what does your nutrition look like? How is your, what are your stress levels at? I want to know all of these different things
With the
about this
kids.
person. With the kids, same thing. I mean, we can even have some of these same conversations.
Right.
And with kids, I may back off a little bit, because I don't want to overdo it with them either. I may just getting them moving first, and then like that third or fourth visit, hey, what'd you have for dinner?
Mhm.
And let them tell you.
Yeah,
that,
what are
if
you
they put their
eating?
eyes down and they're like,
I think it's important for coach to be making them responsible
Yeah,
for all of
absolutely,
these
yeah.
pieces, and I think that it's valuable for the parents. I don't know, Tony, like I'm very vocal about poison versus food, and I find that our children in the community are. I mean, I call it child abuse, and I'm sorry, but that's what it looks like to me when. I mean, from my perspective, coming from my perspective, where I did the worst job and I failed my daughter, and I already did the bad job. So I just want to make sure other people don't follow my bad, habits or whatever. I mean, I was trying to do what I thought was the right thing, like every parent. I don't know any parent that. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I find that when we know better, we're not imposing the do better part onto our children. And I actually, now that we've been through what we have been through, I try to make sure that my children are not going to grow up and have to develop all brand new habits, because that's what I find is happening. We are trying to, as adults, everybody's trying to create a healthy habit. Well, why are you doing that now and you didn't always do that? And wouldn't you want to save your children from having to recreate all of that? So if I'm bringing the kids over to you, I mean, I already know that you're going to do what you can to try to push that, but do you feel a whole lot of pushback from the parents when you are trying to do that? Because it seems to me like, if nothing else, if you can enlist the children to have these better habits and demand that from their parents, because most children are seemingly controlling their parents, where I find if that's going to be the case, because in my home my kids don't control what I put on the table, but in other homes I hear the parents telling me, my kid won't eat that, so I have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or they have a special kids meal every evening while the adults are eating something else, or whatever they're doing, which I think is insane. Like, I can't understand any of that. But if that's the case, then that's your moment to really influence what's happening at home for those kids by challenging those kids. And so, are you doing that? Is that what you're doing, or are you getting a lot of pushback if you ever did try to do that? Or
Well, I certainly promote eating real food. I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what I'm trying to get these kids to do, is, and adults. I mean, the prescription is the same for really anybody that I talk to. So yeah, I mean, we want to make those changes. But you're right, the parents have to be on board with that thing. And I don't get a lot of time with the parents sometimes. Sometimes when I do get time with the parents, that's where I see changes really start to happen. If you have a 14-year-old kid that comes in, you're like, hey man, look, I need you to eat more meat at night. I want you to eat some good meat at night instead of just cereal, right? Well, my mom won't make it, So there is sometimes it's definitely a difficult thing. But
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example. Like we have a girl that you may know of. She ended up being a tremendous athlete. She's on the USA weightlifting team. She's a CrossFit Games competitor. She's phenomenal, and basically an elite level athlete. And
I'm following her on your Facebook.
yeah, we spent so much time with her because we had to travel the country and even had to go outside of the country for different competitions and different things. So I was able to spend a lot of time with her, but also with her dad. So it was like us, we almost were like this traveling family that went to all these different places.
Sure.
And if I'm somewhere, the first thing that I do is I look for the nearest Whole Foods.
Right.
It's the best thing that I
Right.
can find when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
Right.
So I find the nearest one. I always rent a car so that I have a way to get there. And then they just ended up following me there all the time. So now she's in college, right? She goes to NC State, and I talk to her dad because her dad still comes to our gym. I don't see her quite as much anymore, but I see her dad all the time, and her dad's like, her Whole Foods bill like he gives her a credit card. Her Whole Foods bill is like off the charts, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. So I feel like I've sort of put this into her brain, and it's something that she may have never had she not walked in and spent that time with me.
I mean, I think you might have saved her life.
Absolutely.
Because, we have these conversations every week. Every week we're talking about it. And I'm going to say it again this time, too, is that food, as you know, is a hormone delivery system. And then what you're doing is a hormone management system. That's movement, right?
Yeah, right.
And so you can't manage, your body, I can't stress enough, if you're not eating out of the soil, and all of our plants and our animals have to be soil based. And so, people are talking about these new plant-based diets, and I'm like, yeah, so's meat, by the way. Meat is a plant-based diet if you're doing it right. Because if you're doing grass-fed beef, if you're doing grass-fed, and pasture-raised and woodland-raised pork and chicken and things of that nature, imagine how much grass goes into 1 pound of beef. It's insane. And so, I know that's a fact. Our meat is more alkalized, and I can prove it because we have people who would otherwise, I'll give you an example, okay? My husband found out that he had gout in his foot because he, like a lot of men, I know, I'm going to put y'all in one box. Like a lot of men, I know, I'm getting all these looks from everybody in the studio. So, men have this thing about too many vegetables. Maybe it's too feminine or something. I don't know. You do eat vegetables, but you don't really eat vegetables. Like if I make his plate, he'll eat whatever I put on his plate. But when he goes back for seconds, it's for the meat. It's not for the sides or for more vegetables or for more salad or something like that. And so anyway, he ended up with some gout in his foot. And the lie is that gout is caused by beef and butter. And the truth is that it's caused by grains and sugar and alcohol. And it's been called the rich man's disease, which people say the rich man's disease is butter and meat. But if you lived back in the days of the kings, if you were coming from that time period, which is when this all started, then the people with money were only the people with the flour and the sugar and the alcohol. And it wasn't anybody else. And so if you had the flour, if you had the sugar, if you had the alcohol, because everybody had their own livestock and everyone had their own vegetables and stuff. So it definitely was not from that. And everyone had their own milking cow. So they had milk and butter and eggs and things, but they may not all have had bread. And they may not all have had coffee or all had sugar or definitely all had alcohol. So,
and that's the basis of regenerativeness.
Right.
The basis of regenerative lifestyle that we talk about all the time stems from really your acronym.
Yes.
Where
eating from the soil.
It's an whole
holistic approach.
Thank you. A holistic mentality and approach.
So back to the story about the gout thing, so we go and we see our physician who is a chiropractor, and he's like, dude, you got to really realkalize if you want to make this stop, and if anyone who has suffered with gout pain, it's no joke. Okay. And so, when this big grown man can't hardly walk and he's like about to cry, like that's a lot of pain. Men do not generally do that. Right. So he said, I don't know how long it might take for you to realkalize. And so, you're going to have to look into maybe some green powders or things. And I was like, no, we have that in our meat and in our vegetables. You just need to juice. Do you know that I put him on a protocol with our food? And by the way, bone broth is alkalized. Okay. So I put him on a protocol incorporating broth and greens and microgreens and our green juices and stuff. And do you know that what the doctor said, I don't know, it might take, he said up to 18 months. Okay.
Wow.
We had, all of a sudden, I would tell you, it was probably like 15 days later, he stepped up out of bed, and all of a sudden, he put his foot on the ground, because it was in his foot, and I heard like a popcorn popper or something, all these pops, and his foot like snapped into place, and he was like, oh my God, like it's gone, and it was crazy.
How long was that?
15 days. And so that just shows you how alkalized our food already is, and that he was just off balance a little bit. Imagine if he had been eating out of a grocery store.
Right.
I know a lot of people who are on gout medication at 20, at 17. Well, it's like it's crazy. And this arthritis and things that's happening, it's all coming from the grains and the sugar and the alcohol.
Mhm.
So if you want to make it stop, then just stop. I mean, but personally, I've told everybody, like, you know, you don't have to be paleo because whatever, you know, but don't ever eat wheat because it's sprayed with glyphosate. So it's straight up poison.
It's not even the old regular wheat anyways.
But it's
the
poisoned
dwarf
upon harvest.
variety.
I mean,
Yeah,
whether
so
they,
much.
let's just pretend it was, okay?
Yeah,
let's
right.
let's pretend it was the Jesus wheat, okay? If it was the Jesus wheat growing out of the ground,
Mhm.
they still
They still
spray
spray
it with
it.
glyphosate to harvest it. So it doesn't matter. They're poisoning it and then
Process
giving
now.
it to you. And so when I'm saying that it's poison, you know, people are offended by my words, and I'm sorry that I've assaulted you, and I'm going to keep doing it because you can't unhear what I'm saying. But like that wheat is laced with poison. Like they literally spray it on there and then serve it up to you, and it's USDA approved.
Just look it up. Go Google
Yeah.
desiccation and wheat
Yeah,
farming.
glyphosate.
They will show
Right.
you planes coming down and in the late
Spraying
stage
it.
harvest, just
It has
spraying
to be actually now. It's more advanced, Janae.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
now it's robots and drones doing it, and it's nobody in the field. And by the way, it's so toxic in the field that once they've sprayed it, no human being can enter that field for like 8 to 12 days. They would like literally die. Okay, and then after that, you know, hazmat suits. Why do we have people in spacesuits harvesting our food? I mean, why are y'all not asking these questions?
What annoys me more than anything is that a lot of these things, like you talk about the gout, is now just kind of like, oh well, I'm getting old.
Normalized. Oh gosh,
boy.
that old thing.
It's like I'm just old. I you know
Now
that's what happens when you get old.
Well,
I
you're
heard
old.
that.
I don't feel old.
We're all
Bring
old,
it.
Hey, we're all old,
but we
okay?
don't look old.
No, I mean, we're all healing, right? You're recovering from cancer. I had autoimmunity. All of us have had. We all have shared stories. Okay, I want to know why people want to just suffer and act like you can't turn it around. I mean, people generally. It was prostate cancer,
Testicular.
testicular, even worse. I'm saying like anyone with that diagnosis generally is gone in moment. I mean, look it up, y'all. Just look it up because this is a miracle man right here. Okay, cancer conqueror, I say, and I've been saying that all the time. And it's not a small thing. And the lifestyle change that's required to do that. I mean, you know, we're not talking about we're talking
That's
about a normal
An
college,
interesting point.
right?
What was the lifestyle change that
Yes.
helped
Dramatic.
you recover that?
Dramatic. Yeah.
Please tell us
It
about
was
that.
meeting lots of people, seeking out lots of people like Neethi from different ends of the world that I went and learned from and just completely changed my life. So every nutritionist I could get a hold of, every naturopath, every acupuncturist, I mean, you name it, anything that didn't have to do with the American Medical Association was where I was spending a lot of my time. Now, I'm not saying that's what everybody should do, but that was my journey, and that's what I decided to do. And I think we talked about this last time in the podcast, but one of the things I think is most important is to understand that it's your journey and that it's your responsibility to take care of yourself. Like I can't
Yes.
emphasize that enough. That is the most important thing. You need to make tough decisions sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's on you.
Mhm.
Like you have to figure that out. You have to take your path and take responsibility for it.
And everyone tries to take that away from you, don't they? Like, I think it's amazing. And this is one thing that I was saying. I mean, for him to be a cancer conqueror, okay, that means that he had to say, no, you're not going to tell me what I'm going to do. And I had asked you on the podcast, and, you know, we won't go too far back into what we had discussed before. But, like, one of the main questions I asked Tony was, you know, when you received the diagnosis, I mean, it's like somebody just punched you in the gut, okay? So to me, I find those diagnosis conversations completely irresponsible. Not because you tested, they have a result. It should be a conversation, right? I think that the conversation should go more like, look, you need to make dramatic lifestyle changes because if you don't, then this is what's happening. Your cells are falling apart, and this is how it's going to be. Not like you have cancer. And like, boom, you know, you better do what we say now. And then they take you hostage. It's like I held a gun to your head. How is it different? Because they literally put a gun to your head. tell you you're going to die, and then you better just do what they say, and then you're going to be sick and suffering and dying anyway. So, like, you know, I want someone to tell, and then I have people who will argue me, Tony, and say, well, you know, Neethi, there are people who have had that traditional diagnosis and have lived it. And you know what I want to say? I want to scream at them that I watched my daughter go through that traditional diagnosis, go through the treatment where I was watching her be poisoned and tortured and murdered in front of me every single day. And every one of them dies. It doesn't matter. They all go through whatever. You've been through that, but when you went through that therapy, what did you have to do to turn it around? That's what people need to know, because you did do it. And as an adult, you know, it's difficult. It's different with a child. And in our case, you know, Meenakshi had a palliative diagnosis from the beginning. She was shattered, broken already. The cancer had already eaten her entire sphenoid bone. The fact of her turning around was really going to not be an option. Okay, so we knew it, whether we realized it or not or whatever. I mean, you're still going to always try to do whatever you can, you know, to save someone or whatever. But in your case, you did go through the allopathic regimens, right?
I ended up, yeah.
Yeah, because what else? You weren't a hematology oncologist, right?
I was not.
So it takes time to get punched in the gut
I
and
think,
research.
yeah. The responsibility thing, like I kind of feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think that the medical field right now is set up in a way that caters to the mindset of a lot of the people nowadays. And I think that's been manifesting over many, many years. But it's like, oh my God, I'm sick. Doctor, help me. I'm going to throw myself in your hands. I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do to get my health back. So I think there's almost an element of, it's part of our responsibility to not go in there. So, oh my God, doctor, fix me. But instead, like, I need to look inside and I need to figure out what I need to do to make this position better.
But that's where I find it irresponsible of the physician, Tony. That's where I feel like, you know, you're sick, so you're asking for help. And as your physician, I feel like the onus is on me to say to you, hey, someone has even said this to me recently, like, you know, Neethi, I want you to talk to my friend because I know you could probably save their life. No, I can't. I'm just a mere mortal. I don't know what you're talking about. And so that physician who has the arrogance to believe that they know something that's going to actually save, like they're going to be your Superman.
Well,
That's crazy.
well, I think the physician's point of view is this: they see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patients every day,
Thousands
all
and thousands.
day.
Yeah.
So their world is based on those patients, and each and every one of them come in damaged. There are no well people that go to the doctor.
Yeah.
So their perspective is of damagedness, and they just count. I fixed one, I fixed two, I fixed three, and sometimes they do.
And their
Sometimes they
fix
do.
is medicine.
Yeah.
So their mindset
Chemistry
is, this is
project.
what I learned in school. This is what I'm
Yes.
going to tell you. And it's not my job to tell you to be responsible for your health in any way, because I'm feeling a strong sense of responsibility. So now it's up to us. Like, you know, just like Tony said, you got to take responsibility. It's your life. It's your body. And like what Valerie was saying, you know, they're seeing people like, you know, wrestle them in, then they come on like rawhide, you know,
Yes.
bring them in, take them out rawhide, you know, it's like
That's right.
every day, it's consistent. So they are putting you in a box. You're number
Corralled. You're being
130.
corralled.
So if you think about yourself as a number and you know you're not, because nobody's systems are the same. They know that too.
This is
but
where you
it's
got to
up
love yourself.
us
You have to
say,
this, Janae, you said it one time. You said that you have to love yourself, and you have to make yourself the priority. And you just, you know, and Tony and I had said in the last episode, we were like, you have permission. If you need permission to take responsibility, then we're giving it to you right now. But, you know, people are terrified to take the onus on themselves, or to believe that they could Google it and figure it out. I mean, Google it with your doctor if it makes you feel better. I mean, but like, you know, and have a conversation, but take on the onus and the responsibility.
And
But
I think that socialize part in his acronym is what's going to do that.
that is.
yeah.
The socialize, you have to talk to people. You have to be
Right.
connected with a person like Tony, who has made it his passion to help you navigate through that.
That's right.
Mhm.
And that's the way I see
Yeah.
how your
There's this
business
really good
is.
analogy I'd heard from a tremendous coach, and he said that coaches, like health coaches, fitness coaches, health coaches in general, we're like the swim coaches, right? The doctors, the medical association, they are the lifeguards. So I mean, there is a time and a place. Like if I break my leg and I
Yes.
need to get that leg reset, I'm going to the lifeguard.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You have a
But-
car accident.
That's a
yes.
good
Yeah,
analogy.
there
You
is a
break a
place.
wrist.
They are the
Yeah.
lifeguards, and I'm willing to give them that role.
But that's not medical. Let's make it very clear. It's allopathic medicine.
It doesn't matter what you want to call it. Yeah, but that's
no, but,
yeah.
but what people don't understand is that allopathy is emergent care. Allopathic medicine is emergent care. When they try to become internists,
So that's
is-
the direct translation?
yes.
Oh, no
So,
kidding. I didn't
so
know
no,
that. Cool.
holistic medicine is acupuncture, it's chiropractic, it's homeopathy, it is herbal medicine, it is all the ancient medicines that were eons before allopathic medicine. The only thing allopathic medicine is good for, and they're very good at it, is putting bones together, is to put you back together when you've been burnt, cut, like destroyed, blown up or something. Then they will put you back together, and then they need to hand you over to the internist to gain back your life force,
Yeah.
because they will never ever be able to give it to you. Never ever. They have no idea about that. They are only crisis management, emergent, and getting cancer is not a crisis as they would like you to believe. That is a money-making lie. But what it is it's an internal issue, and at which moment, if they diagnose you, this is the reason why you need to have an acupuncturist and a chiropractor and a primary care physician. No one is saying that allopathic medicine doesn't have a place. It has an absolute place. They're very, very good at what they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they are not internists, and they're horrible, and they are irresponsible when they try to do that, and they fail every single time. Every time. When
Yeah.
someone says to me that a cancer patient, I mean, how broken were you? And the only reason that you're not destroyed at this moment right now, Tony, is because you took the onus on yourself to remediate all the damage that they did to you, because they didn't make you better first immediately or whatever. I mean, and whatever they did to try to save you, I'm not trying to take anything away from that. You know what you got from that, okay? And it was emergent care for you. But if you left it there, let's say you did that, do you really think you'd be here strong and proud at this moment?
Can I tell you just a small story of one of the things that I had happen? Because when I first got diagnosed, I was the guy that just went to the doctor and said, "Oh my God, doctor, I'll do whatever you say, just help me." And he said, "Okay, we're gonna cut this out. We're gonna cut this out." And then something had shown up in my lung, and they're like, "Okay, well, I need you to go see the surgeon because we may need to cut that out." So this is 2 surgeries in, right? Now I'm looking at my 3rd one, and the doctor says, "Okay, go see this guy." So I go see this guy, and he does the X-ray on the lung, and he looks at it, and he says, "Okay, there's a tumor in the lung, and it's in the upper lobe, but it could be in the lower lobe as well. It's too hard to tell on here. So we're going to go in there. We're going to cut out the top portion of your lung, and if it's in the bottom portion, we're just going to cut out the whole lung." And it was just kind of like,
Not a big
my
deal.
goodness.
my wife and I are like,
Oh, my
I mean, that was like what they were saying to us about Mina. They would say, "Well, you can do this out of a bottle and that out of a bottle." I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, you want me to make my child a chemistry project, like a test tube kid?
yeah,
What are you talking
it's
about?"
scary. Yeah.
Goodness.
So tell us
What
the rest.
happened from there?
Tell us.
I ended up chasing down some other people, and I found another person that was very familiar with my type of cancer, and he said, no, you don't need to do that. There are some other things that you need to do first. And that's kind of when I got on my kick of, okay, no more putting my hands in the doctor.
That's right.
This just got real. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
going this route anymore. And now
Right.
having another doctor say, you don't need to do that, I'm like realizing that these people they're fallible. Am I saying that right? They're
Yes.
they're
Human beings.
they're humans.
They are
Right.
mere mortals.
If I just put
Yeah.
myself in their
mortals.
hands, you have to take responsibility.
You have to.
Mere mortals, Tony. Let me tell you
Mere
something.
mortals.
One lady said to me, "I've been doing this for 50 years." And you know what I said to her? I said, "Well, I'm sorry, that's not long enough." You know what?
That's epic.
Nature's had this figured out for centuries, eons, since the beginning of time. Nature is perfect. Nature is perfect. And the only thing that's flawed in nature is us.
Right.
Why? Because we're trying to be arrogant. Okay? Well, the arrogance of man is what's flawed. It's not nature. So we're the ones who want to eat Doritos. It's like eating a freaking battery. So you're eating Doritos. It's the same thing as eating a Duracell battery. You tell me what is different about it. You know, like it's the same.
texture.
Yeah. So I mean, I could eat this laptop and this camera or whatever. It's the same thing as eating a Dorito. I mean, really, right? You eat a slice of bread.
Not quite as addictive as a Dorito either.
I know, right? It's not as palatable. But like you read the ingredient list of any of this crap that you're buying in a centralized grocery store, and every single thing on there is this computer or a yoga mat or something. I mean, and I didn't just make this up. Google it, it's everywhere. I mean, you know, like they literally at certain places are using Subway. They're using yoga mat material is what I'm trying to say. And bread. And oops, I'm just said something. But anyway, you know, I'm fallible too, right?
Right.
I'm a mere
We all are.
mortal over here.
We all
I
are.
don't know. You know, I'm just a mere mortal. And so, you know, when people say, hey, can you talk to someone? Hey, can you coach this person or do something and save them? No, I can't. And nobody can. And nobody could have saved you. And only you saved yourself. And you have to fight for your life. And if you're not going to fight for your life, then you're going to die. And everybody wants someone else to prepare something for them, to basically spoon feed them and be responsible for them. And then they have someone to blame. Isn't that convenient?
Yes.
Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Everything that you said in that EMRSP.
I need to work that out a little
No,
better.
that's
I like
brilliant.
that.
It's
I don't know why I'm saying S
brilliant.
first. But here's the thing, and Neethi said it. I mean, there's so much going on here. I love it. But the world, goodness, everything that we need, we have it. Life gives us everything we need. When we mess up EMRSP, which is our medicine. Do you hear that? I want you to hear that.
Yes.
Because the doctor is now
He said-
telling you how you messed up EMRSP, how you did not eat quality food. If you didn't eat quality food, then you may be sitting in front of a doctor that might tell you something that makes you now have to go back to the root cause.
And
which is
burgers
EMRSP.
are not bad. Can I just say this
Burgers
too?
are not bad.
Burgers are not bad. Because the things that are being villainized as bad food what's bad is a commodity burger, okay? If you have a grass-fed burger with not wheat bun, you know, if you use like a cassava flour and make a bread, or, you know, there's so many other things that you can use to create a burger that is going to give you life-giving force. What I can't, you know, I mean, I didn't mean to just use a Dorito as an example because that's actually wrong.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just about living. What is living?
What's allowed, but the quality of your meat, if it's coming out of, if it has a barcode on it, it's wrong. There is no label that you can trust, okay? And if you don't understand that yet, then we're not doing a good job. Like, how can we do a better job? I don't know what's the narrative, Tony, that I should be using to make people understand that if you don't know the person who's raising your meat, I can't do it, okay? I can't grow anything in my backyard because where I live, everybody around me is spraying chemicals and I can't control it, okay? So for me, the grow your own method is not a solution. It never will be, because unless I decide to move out somewhere and buy 1 million acres and control all the land around me and live in seclusion and whatever, which, you know, I'm just trying to be more, you know, I want to remain social, okay? Because it's very part of it's part of the acronym. So I can't live out in the boondocks and do that, okay? And also, let's be very honest, I'm not a homesteader. I don't want to be, and I shouldn't have to be. But I have employed farmers that I trust and respect who find joy.
That's
in
the
doing
community, right? Of the whole
Right.
thing is it's okay to have somebody else grow your food for you. You just be part of that
What is
community.
this American mentality of I'm not going to pay somebody to do something I can do? Well, hey,
I ain't got the time to do all that.
I
You
don't
have
have time to
do
make
that, right?
soap. I don't have time to grow microgreens. I don't have time to do all the 2,500 things. I don't. I mean, I'm busy. But, I mean, I'm out there doing something to support that. And you're doing something important, and you're doing something. I mean, we're all doing something very important in this lifetime. And we don't need to all, I mean, and why can't we allow the person who finds the joy in raising the beeves because I don't want to do it.
Me neither.
And they want to, and they're so happy to do it. Why can't we just love them and let them love us back with some meat?
Yeah.
You know, and let them do it right. But I can't do that with a barcode. I don't even know who I'm supposed to go give a hug to. You know, I need to know who it is that why can't we all just have our own communities? People are always waiting for me to sell you something, by the way. We don't have anything to sell you. What are we selling? We're selling this information.
We're selling EMRSP.
Right.
Right.
And she's talking about
love
quality.
that.
Quality, because we talked about trace the meatball before. It's what you got to know what you're putting in your body. Like, people don't think about, like, I think about omega-3s. You don't have to have some additional thing to put in. If you are eating quality meat, you're getting them. You don't need to have buy something with a barcode that's some fiber with omega-3 in it and some other stuff
What's
you
the
don't
nutrition
need.
label? What
What
does it
is
say?
this? Yeah,
I don't
supplement.
know.
No, you don't need it.
How is that even helping me? I have no. Can you tell me? Because you're an expert on some of this. I don't understand when they tell me the whatever. What does that mean? I'm like, okay, unless I'm taking a blood sample every moment of the day, like every single moment of the day, how am I ever going to know how to balance that with something else? And supplements, we already have we have a show on that where it's dead. There's no point. So we keep saying over and over again, like, stop eating the dead
Nature
food.
knows.
So look, we want to talk to you. I want to talk about the kid thing. I don't want to forget that.
I love this.
I know.
I
Like,
love this.
we're
Love
having
this.
we're having so much fun. Okay, but like, people were failing the children, Tony, and I want you to be able to feel confident, and I want people to be excited to come to you and let you help them because we're a community.
Well,
I
I
want
think
you to
the
help them.
importance of the children point is if we can foster this regenerative lifestyle at a younger age, then by the time they're our age, they won't have to go and deal
Redo
with
it.
cancer. They won't have
Right.
to go
They're gonna be
and
sterile.
deal with
Imagine that world.
gout. They
Yeah.
won't have to go and deal with.
It's
These
not
are
just
not
because you're
normal.
old. or-
Yeah.
These are not normal.
That's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not normal. It's not
I
normal.
mean, the thing, look, I want to be running down the beach, maybe slower than the kids, but whatever. I mean, I want to be able to be running with them, even if I'm running slower, whatever. I want to just run and fall over and be dead one day.
Hey, that's my
Like,
story too.
I know, like that's what should be happening. And maybe people think that's very graphic and traumatic, but no, it's not.
That's a great
You want to
life.
know what's graphic and traumatic is sitting in a hospital room for months on end and not having a solution. That is nonsense.
You know what I fear more than anything is living to be 100 and spending 20 of those years in a nursing home.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's what
Exactly.
scares me to death.
Because you can't stay home because you can't control your bowels,
Right.
because you can't control your
I gotta
mind.
have somebody
because
help
you
me off
can't-
the chair. I mean,
Right.
yeah, that's
No, and none of that has to happen. This is a lie. It's a lie that's sold by the people who are supposed to be doing emergent care who are trying to do internist care, which is
Right.
irresponsible. Make them stop it.
Yeah.
And just all you have to do is not participate. Like, we're going to go to them when we break a bone. We're going to go to them when we have, like, and we love them for trauma because they're great at it. Great. They're phenomenal with that. But they are not. They need to stop themselves from entering this irresponsible zone of trying to give you internal care. They don't know what they're doing.
and I tend to put some of the onus on the population, the people. So not the medical community has sort of developed because it's a business, of course. So
Yeah.
so
It's only a business. Let's
yeah,
be clear.
people are going to them and they're asking for these types of solutions. Like they're asking for, look, I'm sick, I got high blood pressure. Give me, what do you got?
But
Right.
Tony,
If we keep
they're
showing up,
doing that because the centralized education has taught them that they can't talk to me or you or somebody who's not licensed. And the
Yeah.
people who are licensed, they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
but we need people to understand that they can go to somebody else. They can
Yes.
take responsibility for themselves.
That's
The
right.
paradigm has been created, and I don't know if the chicken or the egg, what came first? Did the American Medical Association start that whole thing, or did people just start
No,
legitimately
it's
going to find somebody?
corporatocracy. It is the corporatocracy that we are trying to dissolve. And by the way, America originally didn't allow corporations. If you go to our forefathers, you look at your history. I didn't just make this up. And you're a historian, right? Our engineer over here is a historian. Well, okay, so
Today you are.
yeah, today. So if you look back at the history in America, when America was established, then corporations were not allowed unless it was to serve the greater good, and it was only allowed to be created to serve a purpose or a greater good, and then once that was accomplished, it was dissolved. For example, the railroad. Like when they built the railroad, then they had the corporation, the railroad was the corporation. They built the corporation. They built the railroad, and once the railroad had been put down, the system had been set up, the infrastructure was in place, then the railroad was dissolved. Okay? And that was how corporations worked. Our forefathers never ever wanted, it is not the American way to allow the corporations to enslave the people. And at this moment, the government is being run by the corporatocracy, and it's being funded by the corporatocracy. We know this from the lobbyists. If you're a politician or into politics or understand any of that, then you can follow the money and know that everybody's bought. So we just don't have to participate because the power is in the people.
And that's exactly it, right? I think we have to somehow change the paradigm and let people know that there is an alternative. You don't have to do this plan, right? You don't have to go to the doctor every time you have something. Start looking at some of the other things that are going on in your life. Take responsibility for yourself. Don't put your hands completely into maybe the medical community. Find somebody like yourself. Find a farmer. Build a community.
That's right.
Build a community
Build your
of folks.
army.
Yeah, socialize with people, right?
Root cause, because I'm putting this EMRSP because this root cause. If you know that something is wrong, the answer is not going to be, I hate to use this word, but it's the only thing that's coming to me, Claritin. It's not going to be that. That's not the answer.
The answer is never a drug.
The answer is going to be in this acronym. We talked about quality food. Neethi mentioned that. Moving your body. Rest when you're tired. People are exhausted. Do you think if you don't get healing sleep, that if you don't get the sleep that restores you, that you're going to be well? You're not. Or even having stress in your life and the impact of stress and the biochemicals that come from stress. If you take the root cause and you think about what that is, then you can socialize in that way. What am I doing wrong? You got to ask yourself the question. That empowers you, because if you think of that as medicine and not as running to the doctor to give you something, you don't need that. You need what you need to fix what went wrong.
They need it because they're tired. They need it because they're, in a mode of self-sabotage when they're socializing rather than lifting each other. Because it's cooler to go whine about it over like 10 bottles of wine than it is to take responsibility and find joy in exercising together.
But it isn't, right? Because Tony, he knew something was wrong. You said it. And what did you do? You seeked people. You went out and asked questions. You went out and asked, what do you do in this situation? What do you do in this situation? That to me is socializing.
And were you inconvenienced?
Oh, terribly.
But
I loved it. It was a really good part of my life.
You were inconvenienced, but wasn't health just at the edge of that inconvenience?
Yeah, inconvenience. I don't even know if I would use that word. It was my path that I chose to take, and I guess inconvenience would not be a word I would likely use. Granted, I spent a lot of money seeking out professionals and building a community and just learning so much, but it was a really amazing journey.
And money.
Was it worth your investment? Was it worth that? And also, I want to know, people say that it costs too much to be responsible. It's too inconvenient to be responsible for quality food for a movement.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be coached because that costs money, and that's crazy talk. Okay, crazy talk. And why would we do that? But there's no question when they drop $100 on a night out with wine and tips.
Yeah.
Not a question when and I know they don't drop just 100, because we know the truth about that.
I find money is a tool.
It is a tool.
So money, you have to take that tool as money. Like, you're a fitness coach, like weights. What do weights do for the body, in your opinion?
It makes you stronger, right?
So money is like the weight. It's making you stronger. If you use it wisely. If you don't use the weights wisely, what happens? You hurt yourself.
Things go bad.
So So if you use money wisely, it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
If you use money not wise,
That's a great
things
analogy.
go bad.
Yeah, it's
And
excellent.
when people say they can't afford something, I always say, well, I have to pray for you, because that's so sad that you feel that you don't have the power to control your tools. Because I always, if I'm at the gym, I have the power to control those weights. And if I don't have the power to control those weights, maybe I need to go sleep, because I'm too tired, you
Yeah.
know? And that's the other thing. You're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to sleep. And you're not allowed to socialize. You're only allowed to work. And I think that's amazing. But your intentional lifestyle, I don't know, I think you're socializing while you're working all the time. You're working right now. This is work.
Amazing job.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that comes with intention. That comes with your choices, okay? And you work like crazy, because I've watched you work yourself into the ground. Okay, now what I really want people to hear from you, this is the big thing. So, the thing I love about Tony, I'm so fascinated with this, okay? And if you really know him, then he is always bringing the joy. I don't care if he's about to fall down and he's crawling across the street to come see you. He's bringing the joy, okay? And he's always the lotus flower in this swamp. And I call it a swamp because, you know, we're surrounded by toxins and all this negativity and all these blamers. I mean, this is what the world is right now. And amidst all the chaos and the toxins and the, you know, swamp, you have this beautiful lotus flower. And how do you find the life force within you to thrive in that way, even when you, in your home, you know, okay, and I'm going to get real personal with you about this, but like, I know in your home, you guys try to keep, you and your wife don't have the same perspective, let's say, on children, in terms of like, she wants your son to have the same experiences like everybody, which means that they can't be too much in line with your food habits, for example, because she wants them to experience what everybody else does without making a big deal about it. This is a struggle all of us face. It's a choice all of us have to make as parents. And in our case, because I lost a child, I'm very, very extremely opposite of that, where it is not ever going to be an option. I don't care what other people think. I don't care what my children have to endure, because I'm going to push them into corners to make them have to stand up and do the right thing, because I'm not going to allow them to die on my watch. Okay? And when they become adults and they have the power to do whatever, I mean, they actually have the power to do what they want to anyway, because, you know, we can't control our children. But I don't own the kids. They're not mine in that way. But I do everything I can to make sure that I am continuously saying and reminding them. And I have a 14-year-old son who has a very strong mind of his own, and he wants to push the barrier. And it's not like he hasn't gone on his own. He earns money, and he has freedom. He's not caged in my house. Like, he can walk up to the grocery store, which he has, and bought whatever, some crap, and probably ate it over there, and then come home. And I know he's done it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not enslaving him into my home, but he also knows what that does to him.
Right.
And because he only knows that because I push him into corners.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watch you thrive and flourish and coach and all of this. And you have a beautiful marriage, and you have a really nice balance. I know it's an obstacle for a lot of people, but how do you do that? Because you know your life depends on it.
Yeah, and the truth is, my wife, because she went through the cancer thing with me, she completely understands kind of where I'm coming from, and she sees me today, and she sees me doing so well with my health, and you know, I'm thriving I'll be 43 in a few days. I mean, I'm almost 43 years old. People look at me like, how are you? So I mean, she sees what's going on, and so she follows very closely to what I do, and our son, when we're home, he follows very closely too. So I do, quite frankly, I do all the grocery shopping. I get my meat from the farmer. So that's really all we have in the house. When we go out, my wife does want him to have some of those things, and it makes my heart like stop when I see him eating birthday cake. But then, like, for example, he came home from school the other day, and he was like, I forget what it was, they had some sort of a snack there, and I told him, I told him that I didn't want to eat that snack because it had too much sugar and I didn't want to get diabetes. I'm like,
That's right.
okay, I can imagine the look the teacher gave him when he said that, right? So, I mean, we're instilling those things in him. My wife and I both want him to lead the most healthy life and have the most quality life ever.
Sure.
But there are times when we're out that, my brain melts a little bit, but I just have to sit back and go, okay, this is part of our life, and he's going to enjoy this experience. But it is nice to know that he is still learning from us. He's still hearing us talk about, eating real food and not eating sugar
Sure.
and processed stuff. He gets it. He gets
Well,
it.
I just want to know why, socially speaking, we feel pressured that the child isn't enjoying an experience anyway. I mean, I'm just asking. I want to just put that out there.
I think it's because the child says it.
Oh, okay.
The child will say, "Mom, all my friends are
Yeah.
having birthday cake. Why can't I?"
It's pressure. It's pressure. You see everyone doing what they're doing. And I think that making that connection for them of where sickness comes from. Like when you said diabetes, that totally sounds like something I would have said, because
Thank goodness I'm not the only one.
no, you're
Yeah,
not, because
no,
for me,
you're not.
it's the biggest thing is you need to draw a connection between what's going on with people. And I will take her back to the fact that as soon as her generation was born, we had high levels of toxins in everything, the air, the water. We had lower levels when we were born, nowhere near. So a lot of her friends, I tell her, when you get to be about 20, see, for us, it started around 40, where our bodies would tell us, you did a lot of really bad things in your 20s, right? Somewhere around there.
Well,
And
he
it was
earlier.
And
And
earlier,
now,
but this generation, I told
Earlier.
her, if you look, just wait. And it sounds horrific. Wait. When they get around 20, when they get around their high teens, you are going to need to be a role model now and then to help them through, because they're going to need you.
They may
But
come to you.
Janae, it's happening now. Your
It's
daughter is
happening
already
now.
an example. What are you talking about? And also,
Well, no, that's what I
right,
tell
because
her,
they're
but-
suffering
but
now.
they're going to see it.
They're
a lot
seeing it
more.
now.
They're seeing it now.
Yeah,
They're
But
not.
just wait.
No, okay, wait.
It's going to be even more.
Okay, look. When you have children in school right now who suffer with migraines, that's not normal.
No, it's not.
Nobody even had a headache when we were coming up. Okay, so for a kid to have a migraine is they see it, all right? And if they don't, the problem I think is that people don't think that. I mean, the parents don't even remember or something. I'm really confused. Or because they see it across the board and all the kids, they just think like, oh, maybe we didn't know that was what was or our parents were looking at
But
or
I
something.
I think it's the socialized part. We are not socializing the way we used to. So if you're living in a box and the box is just migraine, how is it that you're going to remember that migraines aren't normal? That migraines aren't
Well, right.
every
If
day?
your child is
when
suffering
that
with
is
something
your
and you're
everyday.
Yeah, when you're knee deep in something and your kid's never sleeping, so you're not sleeping, because that's the other thing.
Yes.
Like right now, what's happening is that mothers of young children don't get any sleep
They're not
and
sleeping
that-
or socializing.
or socializing. And the reason they're not doing any of that is, and they're not even pursuing things that make them happy, because society has said that if you're a mother of a young child right now, you have to hover over them and helicopter them to death. Okay? Like that's the status quo. And then on top of that, you're a bad mom if you don't do all of that. And you're even worse if you go to work and you drop them off somewhere. And then, so there's all these judgments that are happening. And then on top of that, when you're socializing, you're not allowed to talk about all the ways that your child's going to be affected by this, whatever is there. And meanwhile, no one is creating an atmosphere where children have the opportunity even to have healthy food. Because when I talk about bringing kids to somewhere for a party, like we were going to do this kids party at an art studio somewhere, and they were like, oh, well, for the kids, we do offer whatever, crap. And I was like, no, if I'm going to bring my kids there for a party, we're going to bring some vegetable platter or whatever. And they're like, your kids would eat that? And I'm just looking at them like,
But I think
my kids are going to eat whatever I think is the normal thing for kids to eat. And why are you saying that, you're disqualifying? Children don't have the opportunity
Right.
to ever do that, because all the adults have already made the decision that they're
Decisions.
not going to do that. And how many parents? I hear so many adults say, "We're not going to spend that much money on the food for this party. They're just kids."
But we're changing, Niti. We are.
Well, I
see
hope
it.
so.
And I know this show is reaching the people who are wanting to further change it.
They're on the front lines.
Here's
Yeah.
Tony.
Mhm.
Tony is
Mhm.
part of that testimony.
Yeah.
He's
Well, how-
on the
how
front,
important-
front line.
How important is
spreading
nutrition?
it.
How important is the nutrition to fitness?
It's the foundation of just about, for fitness, it's definitely the foundation.
So
Nutrition needs to come
are
first.
the kids going to get it out of a powder?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, can you please speak on that?
Oh.
Because how are you running a CrossFit gym and you're not selling powdered whey protein?
Right?
I
That's
think
what
I
every-
think you have the only box that does not have.
That's every supplement person that calls me every day to sell me their line of supplements. And I'm like, no, thank you. Like, what
He's
kind
the
of gym
dumbest
are you?
businessman out there. You know, you're
I've
just
heard that.
you're missing out. He's missing out.
But he's
Yeah.
not. He's still in business.
Yeah.
How do you do
got
it?
To, you got
How
to
do
be
you
clear.
How do you
in
do
this
it?
Show.
People need to
Yes.
know. You know what? This man is giving up an entire stream of income. He knows
But
it.
he doesn't need it.
No.
That's the beauty of this regenerative lifestyle, and he's. the
That's
proof.
why you're on the show, because you're a hero, because you're not supporting the corporatocracy.
If you believe in nutrition, if you believe in this idea that there is things on this planet for the human body to consume that are going to allow us to survive and thrive. It's been put here already. It doesn't need to be processed and changed and messed with. Then you can understand, if you buy into that idea, if you buy into that belief, which I believe is nutrition, then you don't need powders. You don't need supplements. You don't need all these things.
How can people lift, man? How can they be strong? Because, how can they do that? And we're coming up on the hour, so, I keep getting all these signals that we got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But we're having too much fun.
It's a never-ending process.
No,
we have to
we're
just
just
keep.
having
We have
too
to
much
keep
fun.
working. We have to keep trying
How
to
do you
lead
get?
the way.
How do people how are they successful at your box if you're not selling them a bunch of powders? How is that possible?
We don't sell it at our gym, but there are folks who go out and buy it. They'll bring it in.
And they don't listen to you. I mean, you can't control it.
You have to be somewhat careful with that. You lead by example. We have our nutrition stuff out there. They know
Am I
what.
making you a target by saying that you're supposed to be telling them that or something? You're not allowed to legally do that. Is that it? If you were a gym church like my food church, then you could tell them. Is that right?
Do you mean you can't give nutrition advice? Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're speaking
yeah,
of?
I think so.
Yeah, because I'm sure you've been told that, right? Yeah.
Hence
There's,
my food church.
There's a few CrossFit gyms that have been shut down. Their nutrition programs have been shut down.
Targeted.
Yeah. So they started making these shirts that are #disruptor.
Wow.
That's what I am.
Yeah. So
Wow.
With
we
my
should get you one
food
of those
church.
shirts.
I should. That's a good. I think
Disruptor.
hashtag disruptor.
There was a lady, and I forget, she was the CEO of, I don't know, the American Dietetics Association or whatever, and she put a video out, and she specifically talked about the CrossFit gyms are disrupting the industry. So then when CrossFit,
Are you undercutting a dietitian?
when CrossFit gym made these shirts, I thought that's great. Yeah.
Amazing.
So we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep pushing. We're on the front lines. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep trying to educate. We're going to lead from the front. We're going to keep doing things that we think are right. Maybe not everybody's going to follow, but doesn't mean we're going to stop.
Well, I want to continue to partner with you in all of those fronts. Any way that I can help, you let me know.
Yeah,
Particularly for the 501c3 protection of my food church, to be able to speak and share and talk and say things if you feel like you're ever, being shut up.
And I want to.
If someone's trying to shut you up.
If anybody calls me, I got my community, my gang.
Yes,
That's
yes,
right.
that's
That's
right.
right.
That's right.
We need each other. I mean, we
Yes.
need each other. I think, look, folks, I really hope after this episode that you will be seeking out Red Dog CrossFit for, and try to get your kids involved with Coach Tony Bevilacqua, Coach B, whatever, I don't know what they were going to call him. But I think it's very important to get involved in these programs, and specifically at a place where they're being taught and they're exposed to an example of a coach or a leader or someone who understands the importance of the regenerative lifestyle and using food, and to give you the life-giving force that you require to be able to lift heavy things. Is that right?
And
He
I
fits.
thank you.
Well, you have to be able to, I don't care how old you are. A lot of people have that. They feel like children and older people are not supposed to lift heavy things. So as we're wrapping it up, one more thing. Can you just say, is that okay?
Without a doubt. There is no doubt. Yes. Lift heavy things. It's good for you.
There, he said it out
Lift
loud.
heavy, lift often. Yeah.
Yes, lift.
It'll make you
heavy
strong.
things.
Move
Yes.
your body.
Move
That
your
was
body. Move
Eat
your body.
quality
RSF.
food. Move your
E-
body.
EMRSF.
Rest
We
when
need to put that in
tired.
the notes.
Yeah, socialize often, and we're gonna have links for your box and
Cool.
how
Awesome.
to reach you. Do you want to tell anybody where to find you?
RedDogCrossFit.com. You can find me there, and then my email, Tony@RedDogCrossFit.com. I don't do the Twitter thing, so
He's busy lifting heavy things.
Tony@RedDogCrossFit.com is my email. So
Yes, thank you, Tony.
Yes,
We
thank
appreciate
you
it.
thank
so
you.
much,
That was really
Tony.
fun.
Thank you
It's
so
fun.
much.
All right, folks, we will see you next week. Hey friends, we hope that this production has served you in some way today. If you would like to hear more shows like this, please help us grow our army of Minas by visiting our website and making a donation today. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. And, I ask that you please like and share this video, follow us on Facebook, become involved with us on Instagram and Twitter, and all of our links can be found in the show notes. Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.